Slayer! That's right. Let's talk about one of my all-time favorite thrash metal bands, SLAYERRR. Um, yeah, I'm a pretty huge fan of theirs. I had the good fortune of seeing them with the original lineup sometime in the quite early 2000s. I think I saw them twice even. They were really a great live show. Unfortunately, I never got to be in the first row to experience it, but it was really intense, even from all the way back of the stadium, or the hall where they played. It was really intense stuff. Starting in 1983, here's the first album, Show No Mercy. I got this pretty recently. I'm not a huge fan of this album, but I do appreciate that they were really giving it their all in the beginning. You can clearly see the Merciful Fate influence on the early days, especially on their second album, which is one of my favorite albums from them. Then they released two EPs. They released a Live and Dead EP where you got this live show, probably a fake live show, where they play 7 tracks, I think. And on my version, they also include the Haunting the Chapel EP with Chemical Warfare and Aggressive Perfector and all that goodness. Arguably, Chemical Warfare is the track which kind of started like the modern or the signature Slayer sound, so I really like that one. Here's Hell Awaits. The songs are kind of long though. I really like some of those, like Crypts of Eternity and Hell Awaits, of course, and Kill Again I think is cool. I think all in all it's a really disturbing and menacing album. Not quite my favorite, but definitely a very cool album. And I like the Merciful Fate sound they have there. This is the big one, Rain in Blood from 1986. This I tried to fight it for the longest time, but this has become my favorite Slayer album. I just cannot fight it anymore. I mean, every single song here is fast. At first I thought, oh, this is a bit too fast for my taste, and that the songs aren't different enough. They kind of all blend into one. But actually, if you really listen to this, you will quickly figure out, oh, that's this song, that's the other song. So it's not just an album where you got Angel of Death and Rain in Blood. This is actually a very solid effort throughout. I don't think there's a bad song here. Maybe a couple of the B-side songs aren't as essential, but all in all, Postmortem and Piece by Piece, Necrophobic, Altar of Sacrifice, Jesus Saves, it's all really good thrash metal, and one of the all-time greatest thrash albums in my opinion. South of Heaven, not a huge fan of this one, but it's still Slayer from the classic era. Here they tried to tone down a bit, play a bit slower. Araya tries to sing a bit more cleanly. I always feel they're kind of trying to slow things down a bit, which I think is a shame. I do like Silent Scream though. I like Cleanse the Soul. There's a Judas Priest cover track here, but I think that's kind of unnecessary because they hold on their own really well with these songs. Behind the Crooked Cross. I used to play Doom back in the day, and there was this song, I think, which was inspired by Behind the Crooked Cross, which they basically stole to the game, and it fits the mood of Doom perfectly, so I think that's great. Yeah, I think this is one of those pretty good albums. Not my favorite, but still solid. Here is Seasons in the Abyss. This one I like a lot better. At some point, this was even my favorite. And this has a really nice combination of the past two albums. So there's some really extremely fast songs here, like Born of Fire and Hallowed Points and War Ensemble and I guess Spirit in Black for the most part is pretty fast. That really took time to grow on me, but yeah, Spirit in Black is a cool song. But then there are these really slow and menacing songs like Seasons in the Abyss, Dead Skin Mask. It has a nice blend of both worlds of Slayer, so I really like that one. They did release a live album from that tour. It should have been called Decade of Decadence, and that would have been such a cool name, but some crappy hair metal band, I think, stole that title for their collection or something like that. Decade of Aggression is still a very cool and fitting name for Slayer. They pretty much play almost the entire Seasons in the Abyss album here. I actually got I think I have the Japanese version. Yeah, Nippon Phonogram. It's mentioned somewhere here. So there are like a couple of extra tracks here that weren't included with the US version. Unless you got that Steel Eagle version of it. I think there's Skeletons of Society and At Dawn They Sleep are included here. Those two tracks on the second CD. So if you're gonna get this live album, I would recommend getting the version with those two songs. I think this is the ultimate version of this album, but you know, any version will do. It's live Slayer and you're gonna love it if you're into that sort of sick stuff, I guess. Then here's an underrated one, Divine Intervention. It doesn't have Lombardo in the drums, but you know, Bostaph does a pretty freaking good job with this one. I really love this album. It's even more extreme than the albums they done before in the 80s and early 90s. This one was released in 1994. You get this cool track Killing Fields in the beginning, which has this really weird and interesting rhythmic pattern to it, and Bostaph is kicking the shit out of his drums. You get these really fast songs like Sex Murderer, Ditto Head, and then on the B side there's some really disturbing stuff like Serenity Murder, 213, all that stuff. The title track Divine Intervention is really haunting and disturbing, and the way Araya shouts out the lyrics and completely like destroys his voice in the process. Oh, but oh my god, it's worth it because it's so intense. Absolutely great album. Probably the second or third best I've heard from them. Rain in Blood is the best. I think probably Seasons in the Abyss. I don't know. It's kind of a tough fight between this one and Seasons in the Abyss in my mind. This is a really cool album. Check it out. Don't just go with, oh, Lombardo isn't there. Really listen to that. It's scary stuff, really. Then they kind of returned with the original lineup into 2000s. Here's Christ Illusion. I think it's an okay album. I'm not a huge fan of it, but a song like Jihad, I mean, that's classic Hanneman at his best. And Supremist, I think, is really cool with that blast beat Lombardo makes. Other than that, I think it's a solid effort, but those two songs really stand out for me. I guess Flesh Tone, the opening track, is a cool one too. And here is Slayer's last album, in my opinion, where Hanneman is still around. They did release Repentless after this one, but World Painted Blood, I was so excited about this. I remember watching some YouTube clips that they released from this album and from the riffs before they actually released the album. I think they played songs like Psychopathy Red and Hate Worldwide, some of those really fast riffs. I really like this one. It's got like one mid-tempo song and then 2 fast ones, then one mid-tempo songs and 2 fast ones, and it's really intense. It kind of reminds me a lot about Rain in Blood, and it still has its own thing going. The opening track starts things kind of slow, so I'm not hugely excited about that, but it has grown on me through the years. And I love the insanity that ensues. I like American. I like Unit 731 and Hate Worldwide. You know, Psychopathy Red. All these songs, really great stuff. And that's like my farewell to Slayer in that sense. Then there's a bunch of live shows. These are unfortunately unofficial. There's material floating around in YouTube from some of their really early shows. I think there's stuff from 1983 here, and 1984, 1985, 1986, 88, 91. All these different shows, some of them legendary, where the audience rips the seats of the place where they are playing and throws them on the stage, and they're really like destroying the whole music hall, and it's just so intense. And then here's a live show from the Divine Intervention tour. It's sad that Lombardo isn't here, but this is still a great video. It's one of those 90s videos where you get a combination of a live show with these interviews and random sections from the tour thrown in the mix. I think it works well because Slayer show is usually really intense. So seeing all the crazy fans and seeing the band knocking down these empty beer cans and doing all sort of stupid shit, you know, I think it's great. It has a good balance to it. I think this is a very entertaining thing. And then I guess still raining. Let's go with this one. They play Rain in Blood in its entirety on this one, and then some cool bonus songs here: War and Supple, Hallowed Point, Necrophiliac, Mandatory Suicide, Spill the Blood, and South of Heaven. I think this is really cool. There's also the stage gimmick, the only stage gimmick that Slayer could ever really do. Because they weren't into that sort of stuff. They were just strictly a band that plays their stuff and goes off the stage. But here, oh my god, it works really well. So if you don't know the gimmick yet, but love Slayer, go and check out Still Raining. It's gonna really make you grin like an idiot because it's so fun, you know, what they do at the end of that show. Okay, there's also box set with this pretty cool thing. Unfortunately, the CD is broken. There's like these little scars floating around in the blood, and it came in this box set, soundtrack to the Apocalypse. Where you got like 4 CDs of stuff and a DVD. It's really cool stuff. I really like it, but I wish that the DVD would have included like a whole classic live show rather than bits and pieces from all over the place. But it's difficult because they had such a long career and they could have been so much more stuff released. But this is like a bit all over the place, so it has some really important little clips throughout their career, but maybe a whole live show would have been more interesting. Still a very nice box if you're into that sort of thing. So there you go. Slayer! See you next time.